Hey, welcome everybody. This is David Bush back here with Dr. A, the author of the Habits of Health Transformational System. And we are on a Monday, Dr. A. We're ready to get back into the groove of life as we know it. And we just thought it'd be a great idea to kind of take a stroke at the idea of building your mind to be successful in a very different world. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say about that today.
Yeah, well, David, as we all know, the world has been fully disrupted. I mean, not just the United States, but the whole world. And at a time like this, is everybody's looking to adopt and adapt to change. Everything kind of goes out the window. All the routines, all the automaticity. In the habits of health, I spent a lot of time using the idea of habit formation to really help people make meaningful transformation, long-term, sustainable transformation. That's why, diets still work. 85% of people that lose weight gain it back because they do not change their lifestyle. They do not change their behaviors. They simply go in a restrictive period. And then at the end, they stop doing it once they reach the goal, if they reach their goal, and then they go back to their old ways. And so habits are basically mostly at a subconscious level. They're automated. I like to use the analogy of driving a car. When you first started, man, you had to know about the accelerator, the brake, how to turn, use the turn signals, the windshield wipers, basically parallel park, which very shortly won't be necessary anymore with automaticity through automatic driving cars. But for right now, all those things become automatic. Probably not the parallel parking. People still aren't pretty good at that. But for pretty much everything else, we kind of run on automatic. And when we have a huge disruption that goes across the whole spectrum of our lives, man, all of a sudden our brain and our mind and our adaptabilities and the stress. I was reading today that baking is taken on, quarantine baking is taken on a whole new level of people at 9 o'clock at night Instagramming and texting each other and talking that around the country people are drinking wine and baking. So clearly this has got people upside down right now, David.
Yeah, well, we're excited to hear some information from you today. And this is all going to be coming from Dr. A's Habits of Health Transformational System. You can get more details if you're brand new to Dr. A and to what this whole system is all about. Check out habitsofhealth.com. There's lots of great resources there and free resources that you can use to help you to build your mind to become very successful in a different, very different world. And Dr. A, you gave this presentation yesterday to thousands of health coaches who really wanted to understand how to not only adopt these habits, but transfer them to other people. So walk us through kind of like what's going on and why it's so imperative to develop these skills.
Well, basically, just like I was just talking about baking is comfort food, right? It's food that we do it, the psychology of, whatever's going on, to make something, to create something, to get our mind off of what we're worrying about, and then to eat it. But most of the stuff we're eating is not healthy for us. Same thing with the stress and the emotional concerns. People really don't know how to handle it. They're not used to it. They're used to working and kind of displacing that. And then all those things are there. And then obviously they're very stressed. And so during these periods, it's really important that, it's okay to bake a cake occasionally. But if you're starting to come home every day from work, if you're going to work or if you're not, and baking a cake every day, wow, you got problems. Because what's going to happen is they call it the quarantine 15. There's actually a calculator you can go online and use. But on average, just like the freshman 15 for freshmen in college, they gain 15 pounds. They're saying within 40 days, most people will gain on average about 15 pounds. And obviously, it's really important that we don't do that because obviously it hurts our health. Now, with that stress and disruption, you can see this is a major disruptor and causing undue stress. And if you look at the world on the next slide, David, hopefully you've got it. Oh, you don't. Okay. Well, on there's a slide I used in the original presentation that showed the United States of America is really struggling. We already have over 20% of us that basically have mental health issues. We kind of lead the world. We're already in trouble. And then with overlaying the coronavirus on top of it, it really puts us in a poor place right now. And we need to address this head on. And we need to address it as individuals. We don't have the medical delivery system that's large enough to take on all the mental health issues that are going to be going on. And so that's one of the great things that we do. And what I'm excited about is we have thousands and thousands of coaches around the country and also now in Asia and around the world, is that we're here to help people kind of talk about it and kind of help them manage and take responsibility. Because, the unexamined mind in a time like this, man, the mind can be a dangerous place, or it can be an amazing gift depending on how. So on the first slide there, you showed like the mental gymnasium, right? And we certainly, people are spending time, they're going for walks. I see lots of sweatsuits being sold, and we've talked about the habits of healthy motion, but they're not going to the mental gym. And it's going to really be important, especially through this ongoing crisis, and then moving forward out of this, because Thomas Freedom, I talk about it in the first chapter in Dr. A's Habits of Health. But bottom line, technological advancement and the ability to adapt to the changes, we're lag behind, and we're not able to adapt at a fast enough pace. And as a result of that, many people are feeling left behind, and also that they don't have the skills, the coping skills to continue to advance at that same speed as technology. And then you throw something like the COVID-19 on top of it, and people are in a crisis mentally. And the whole thing about us coming on now, and why I'm excited about doing these short videos, is to help people start to examine their mind and give them some nice little tips and exercises and things they can do, so we can start building the health of our mind, because it's our most important asset. And it's important, especially if you're a mom or a dad, or a sibling, or basically running a company or a leader, is that we have the skill set so we can remain calm and fully in control of the thinking part of our brain. Because when the emotional part of our brain takes over, our feelings and our emotions, if not managed properly, can really run wild and cause lots of dysfunction, tension, and actually accelerate the psychological pandemic that's going on.
Yeah, I've heard you say so many different times that the number one issue in most people's lives today is not an eating problem or a drinking problem. It's really a thinking problem. It's emotional mismanagement. And you gave some specific steps on how you can create optimal human development. Would you mind just walking the listeners through? And if those of you that are watching this live, or you watching this as a recording, would you mind sharing a comment of how you're using the habits of health to create a healthier mind? Go ahead, Dr. A.
Yeah. So thanks, David. And this is really adult psychological development. By the time we're 14, we have most of the things we need to kind of go through life. We've learned to interact with other people. We've learned the social skills enough to get by. And most people, that's as far as they go. They don't really continue. And because it's not required of them to have high emotional agility, they just basically show up for their job and they do their job. But what's really important is to grow up. And growing up is learning to take control and command and be able to stop, challenge, and choose, which is basically a system I created. It's easy to use, that allows people to stop, challenge why they're feeling the way they are, and then choose an outcome that moves them forward. So that way they can show up. And, people can get by when things are okay and they've been doing the same thing over and over again for years. But suddenly throwing something like the COVID-19 that totally disrupts their lives, it's really uncovering the lack of people that are at the optimal stage in their psychological development, David.
Yeah, well, you definitely challenged all of us in that particular day just to think about, some of the reasons of why we want to get healthier. And most people, I would look at these questions and say, yeah, I want to be the best I can be for myself, my family, my clients, or my coaches, if you are a coach, or if you're in a community where you want to create change in your community, or for the people that are struggling out there. So give us the idea of why it's so important to be proactive versus reactive.
Yeah, so living in a prison of the reactive mind, 95% of people are continually, incessantly thinking. And they don't even know they're thinking. They're on automatic, and they're basically talking to themselves inside of their mind. And they don't even know where it's coming from, but it continues. And what it does is it elicits feelings, and those feelings come from emotions. And then those emotions, they start creating what we call cognitive emotive loops. And we start thinking about something, then we start feeling something, and the emotions kind of well up. And I was talking about this over the weekend, David, but the emotions are really powerful. They're an important part of our DNA, part of our system of how our mind works and our brain works. And they were decided basically to keep us safe. 10,000 years ago, your emotions kept you out of danger. And if you did get hurt, because we talk about the 4 F's, right? You have fright, flight, faint, or freeze, right? Those are, and you look at nature. I'm going to go out and look at nature. That's what organisms still use. They use it every day to protect themselves, depending on what's the best possible position. And that is done automatically. It's done at the unconscious level. And then if you're fighting, you go into the fight, basically it switches over to norepinephrine and cortisol release. And what these things do is they actually prepare your body to vasoconstrict your arteries. So if you do get damaged, that you don't bleed to death. And so these are powerful things that have an amazing effect on our whole body. But now 10,000 years, when basically most of the threats are gone, and now it's the psychological part, it's affecting us daily and causing stress response. So if you look at these slides, on average, we have three brains, and I kind of kid around, but the lower automatic brain is the lizard brain, right? It just kind of reacts to what's going on. The Labrador brain is the emotional brain, and then the human thinking is the discipline, the brain that's able to actually decide things and keep you out of trouble. And what happens is when we get into that reactive, we have a stimulus, we immediately respond. 10,000 years ago, if a snake was on the trail, you would want to respond before you could even think about it, before the human brain. Because if you thought about it and looked at it and says, oh, what a pretty looking animal that is. It's got stripes on it. It's got curls and varications on it. It's got this little thing at the end that's making this funny sound and rattling. Well, while you're observing that in the human mind's thinking, you would be dead. So instead, at a subconscious level, basically it's important. But what happens is when it goes subconsciously like that, it never reaches up into your thinking brain. When you're emotionally charged and you're not in control of it, and you're not sensing what that emotion is and letting it go through your body and it's taking over, we go out of control. That's why, prisons are full of people that, God, if I'd only hadn't made that one mistake, I hadn't done that one thing, and I was out of my mind, right? I was out of my, yeah, your human thinking mind was not working. If you're yelling at somebody in a meeting, or you're cut somebody off in traffic, that's that stimulus response, and it bypasses our thinking logical brain. So if you look on the right, I developed this idea of stop, challenge, and choose. And we put it in, we have a free app, and you guys can download this. You don't have to be part of our mission. We want to have these free resources for you, but you can download it, and instead you stop. And as you stop, you start feeling those emotions. So one of the emotions we're feeling a lot right now is fear. And part of it's justified. People are dying. I mean, for most of us, we're going to be okay. But for some people, they potentially could die. And we know that. And so that's a pretty primordial feeling. I don't want to die. And I don't want my family to die, or my friends to die, or anybody in my community that I know dies. So bottom line is that's going to elicit that fear. And that fear settles down in our gut. So one of the things, we were talking about, one of the things we use as an exercise that everybody can use is just simply creating resonance with your gut. So let me just go over this real quickly. I think it's worth for everybody. So bottom line is we have the vagus nerve. It's the largest nerve that comes out of the brain, that goes, it meanders throughout our whole body. It's called the vagus nerve. Vagus comes from Latin, which basically vagabond, right? It's this wandering nerve. About 85% of it is sensory. So what it does is it senses all the things going on in your physiology. It's actually it's feeling what your stomach's feeling like, and what your intestines are feeling like, and what your basically diaphragm, and all those things. And so what ends up happening is when we're nervous, when we get something that gets us, we see something that feels like a threat, it gets our gut churning, and then it sits there all day long. And that's why people, obviously get things such as indigestion, heartburn. I mean, a lot of these things are induced because of that psychological stress. So one of the things we kind of talked about, and this comes from a lot of the post-traumatic stress work, is to just simply do the ooh. So actually, let's do it. Let's do it for everybody so they can watch. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about 4 really deep breaths, and then we're going to, as we breathe in and then exhale, we're going to vibrate our whole body. We're going to go ooh, like that. So let's do it first, and then we'll talk about it. So let's do like 4 breaths. Can you do it with me?
You got it.
All right, man, let's do it. Ready? And have some fun with this. And go as long as you can. I'm kind of shorting a little bit, but And so then just take a moment. And how do you feel? How do you feel, David?
Yeah, the vibrations actually relax our bodies. It seems like that the frequency or something ends up having an impact not only on the mind, but just on the physical sense.
Yeah, and it is physical. That's the cool thing about it. You know, our body has physiologic coherence. And coherence means that everything is working together. And when our body, our physiology, our gut, our heart coherence, the heart is 5,000 times the electromagnetic energy of the brain. So we don't really realize it, but that heartfelt part, that in here, that heart connection is really important. But that physiology then rises up and calms our emotions. It kind of settles our emotions down, which then calm our feelings down. And then that basically calms our thinking down. And then what it does is it actually allows us to become physiologically coherent. And all that means is now my gut is relaxing and I'm taking control. So this is really important. And, so obviously if you're in a meeting or something, you don't want to do the ooze, but you can do deep breathing. You can do heart coherence where we take deep breaths and put our hand over our heart and feel our heart. And obviously one of the key parts of deep breathing is basically to go from when we're stressed, our breathing is all up in the neck, right? We shallow breathe and we may not realize it. So that's why it's important during the day to just take a moment of self-awareness so you can self-regulate, right? So self-awareness is, wow, I'm breathing shallow. My stomach feels all churned up. So then you can take care of that. And just by stop, challenging, and choosing a different outcome, you can make all the difference. So those are just a couple little hints that people can use to help them kind of regain control over their physiology, which then puts their resonance. And the word, the word I like to use in that is the body goes into resonance or harmony, right? It goes back to its normal physiologic mechanism that gets fully messed up when we're really stressed out and we're full of anxiety.
So good. Well, hopefully some of you did the woo exercise. If Dr. A and I, a couple of old football players, can do the woo exercise, everybody can do it.
Exactly.
And so we'd love to get some feedback. Did it help you to feel more connected in terms of your emotional state? Did it lower your stress level? Did you feel a sense of release? Post in the comments and let us know what your feedback was. And, we're going to be doing another video on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, 2 p.m. Eastern, or 2 p.m. Pacific. And we're going to be talking about the powerful questions for removing the emotional mismanagement. And if you want to join us next Wednesday, please join on, like the page, Dr. Wayne Anderson's Facebook page for more live videos, and come back to this page Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time to watch Dr. A talk a little bit more about these powerful questions. Dr. A, any final comments for this Monday evening?
Yep. Just one. Stay safe, be healthy. We're in the middle of this. There is light. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. Stay with it. Be there for yourself first. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like an old friend and help your family at the same time, your community, the United States, and the world. Thanks. God bless.